Good evening to you. I'm Kelly Runyon. Primary elections are coming up March 18th, and 3 candidates will face off for the Republican nomination for the Coles County Sheriff's position. Tonight, you'll hear from 2 of 3 candidates about local issues that affect you and your decisions. The candidates are Randy Ervin from Mattoon, John Clough from Charleston. The 3rd Republican candidate, Jimmy Rankin, is unable to attend tonight. The questions for this forum have been selected from submissions from the local and area journalism community, as well as the Coles County League of Women Voters. Questions were screened for duplication and appropriateness by WEIU. Each candidate will get a chance to answer each question. Responses will be timed at 2 minutes apiece. Again, I'm Kelly Runyon from WEIU, and I will serve as moderator. We'd also like to welcome Joycelyn Phillips from the Coles County League of Women Voters, who will aid in forum timing. We will begin tonight with a 3-minute opening statement from each candidate, the order of which was determined by, well, you guessed it, drawing straws backstage. Mr. Clough and Mr. Ervin in that order. So Mr. Clough gets the first opening statement tonight. And thank you both for joining us. And again, we'll start with you, Mr. Clough.
Okay. First, I'd like to introduce myself. I'm John Clough. I'm a lifelong resident of Coles County. Grew up southeast of Charleston. Graduated Charleston High School, joined the Marine Corps, served in as a rifleman in an infantry platoon, came back home, became a police officer in the city of Oakland for a couple of years prior to starting with the Sheriff's Office 20 years ago. It's been my honor to be a deputy sheriff for the last 20 years. I'm the only candidate that served in every level of the Sheriff's Office. I've served in corrections sergeant. I went to patrol and canine. I've worked in patrol supervision. And then since 2006, I've been the traffic crash investigator for the Sheriff's Office, where I investigate all fatal crashes that occur in Coles County. And currently I'm serving as a detective in the Sheriff's Office and investigating a wide variety of crimes, from obviously homicide to mailbox damage, for that matter. I'm a certified lead homicide investigator in the state of Illinois. I graduated at the University of Illinois Police Training Institute. And I think some of these are the qualities that I possess, and obviously been with the Sheriff's Office for a long time, and give me the capabilities to lead as sheriff in the next year.
All right. Well, thank you for that opening statement. And Mr. Ervin, it's time for you to speak to the people of Coles County.
Great. Well, first of all, I'd like to thank WEIU and the League of Women Voters for hosting this event. I think any time that there's a contested election, it's important to have events like this to give the voters an opportunity to hear from the candidates and hear their ideas and what they have to say. Pretty much I've devoted my entire adult life to the law enforcement profession. Starting back when I was 18 years old, I enlisted into the Army as a military policeman. I served 3 years on active duty and was honorably discharged. My civilian law enforcement career began at the Coles County Sheriff's Department. I was employed there as a deputy sheriff for 11 years. And during that time, I had assignments in each section of the department, which would include corrections, patrol, investigations, and the drug task force. In 1997, I was hired as the first police chief at Lakeland College, a position that I still hold. In addition to administering the college's police department, I'm also responsible for emergency preparedness on campus, and that's included everything from writing and maintaining the college's emergency preparedness plan, providing training for students and staff, what to do in the event of critical incidents. We cover everything from the mundane, what to do if there's a power outage, to the critical, what to do if there's a tornado or an active shooter on campus, and a little bit of everything in between. In addition to my law enforcement experience, I served 2 terms on the Mattoon City Council from 2005 to 2013. As far as education, I'm a graduate of Lakeland College with a criminal justice degree. I'm a graduate of EIU with a bachelor's and master's degree, and I'm also a graduate of the FBI National Academy. My wife, Kim, and I have been married for 22 years. Kim works here at Eastern in the Center for Academic Technology Support. If you're ever wanting a challenge, try saying that 3 times fast. And we have 2 daughters. Katie is 17 and Rachel is 15. Appreciate the viewers who have turned in this evening, taking an hour out of your time listen to the candidates, to hear what we have to say. I think it's important. I appreciate you taking the opportunity to listen to both John and I so you can help yourself make an informed decision. I look forward to visiting with the viewers over the next hour or so. Thank you.
All right. Well, we thank you both for your opening remarks, and we're going to move now to the part of the forum, to the question part of the forum, and they are from our journalist submissions. Each candidate will have a couple of minutes to answer each question, and the first question goes to Mr. Clough this evening, and the question is, very simply, why do you want this position?
It's been my goal since I started the sheriff's office to someday, finish as sheriff. I mean, I've never really wanted to work anywhere else. I've stayed there for the last 20 years. I'm getting close to the end. It's going to be within the next 8 to 12 years, and I'd like to. There's a lot of things that I think that I know, and the nuances and the things about the sheriff's office and how, like, without better words, the machine ticks. And it can guide it in the right direction and do a lot of good things, I think.
All right, thank you for that. And Mr. Ervin, I will ask you the same question. The Coles County Sheriff, why do you want that position?
Well, I think there are a couple things. I remember years ago when I worked at the Sheriff's Department, and I was working in corrections, and we had a position on patrol that I had applied for. And there was an interview process, and one of the questions that the sheriff at the time asked was about what are your short and long-term goals. And I kind of half jokingly, but seriously as well, I said, well, as far as long-term goals, eventually one day I want to be sitting in your chair. And I remember that he kind of jokingly said, well, I hope that doesn't mean that you're going to run against me in the next election. I said no. But I think it's an opportunity for professional advancement. Whatever the profession, the assistant manager at the shoe store might aspire to someday be the manager, and the manager might someday aspire to buy the store. My career at Lakeland College has been very rewarding, and I enjoy it, and it's been a great opportunity. But the Sheriff's Department is a little bigger department. They have a lot of exciting things going on. They're part of the drug task force. They have a canine unit and some things like that. So I see it as an opportunity for advancement and professional growth, and an opportunity to take my career to the next level and to dive into some new challenges.
Well, Mr. Ervin, we will stay with you for question number 2, and that is, what do you see as the biggest need for the Sheriff's Department right now, and what would you do to fill that need?
Answering the question what the biggest need is probably an easy one. The $64 question is, how do you fill that need? Probably the biggest need would come in the line of, if you want to call it funding or the economy or budget or what have you. I think the Sheriff's Department is not unlike any other public entity out there. Tax revenues are down. The amount of money that the state is allocating to public bodies locally is diminishing. So there's always going to be that challenge with looking at funding. So what do you do about that? I think there are a number of proactive things that you can do. One is looking for things like grants, and there are people that will tell you, well, there aren't any more out there, but that's not true. There are fewer of them than what there used to be, and they're certainly more competitive, but they are out there. And I think the other part of that equation is realistically knowing that you do have a limited number of funds, and you have to allocate those where you have the most need. Not unlike what you and I have to do at home. If the car needs an alternator and the washing machine is conked out and the windows are leaky and you've only got enough money to do one of those things, you have to prioritize.
All right. Thank you both for question number 2. We move on to question number 3, and we start with Mr. Clough. And that question is, as a candidate for the top law enforcement officer of we need to have you answer the question.
I'm not going to tell you how to
I'm getting ahead of myself
okay.
here. Well, we've got an hour, so
you told me to listen.
Well, let's go back to the question that I skipped. So the question is, what do you see as the biggest need for the Sheriff's Department right now, and what would you do to fill that need?
it does all about to come down to the bottom line. I mean, money, tax revenues are down, but I think some of the smaller things and some of the things that I see from being within the department are that, training. I mean, you can never have enough training, because the more your people are trained, the more professional they are, the better they do their jobs, the better people are served, the people are treated better. Our training budget I would like to see increased, and I know the county board and the Sheriff and Law Enforcement Commission and the Finance Commission are working hard and diligently to try to figure out ways to do this. And I think that you find avenues and ways and grants in order to increase that portion of the budget, because the more you train your people, the more professional they are, the more in-house things can be done, such as years prior to 2006, the state police did all our traffic crash investigation. Whereas now the sheriff's office, sent me to Northwestern University through their traffic crash investigation school, and now I handle most of the in-houses unless I'm not available. So I think that there's ways to work that, and ways to work the budget in grants and things of that nature.
Okay, thank you for that answer. How about now we move on to question number 3 to both of you. And Mr. Clough, we're going to start with you. The question is, as candidate, again, for the top law enforcement officer of Coles County, cite at least 3 significant law enforcement issues facing Coles County over the next term. And what would you do to meet those challenges? If you'd like me to say it again, I'm happy to repeat it.
3 law enforcement needs. I think one of the things, and just because it's fresh in my mind a lot because I do it, is I think that Coles County is probably, it's 5th in the state in DUI enforcement, but yet over the last few years we've had a ton or too many vehicle DUI fatalities. We're enforcing the laws. The state's prosecuting these, offenses. I think we need to look at education, getting with maybe the school officials and working with them and trying to educate these kids and maybe, get them a little more aware of what's going on in the decision-making process, because, people are dying that don't need to die. Other things is school safety. I know it's a big issue. It's a concern of mine, every time I drop my son off or pick him up from school. Can someone just walk in off the street and, have a Sandy Hook? It's a huge concern, and as parents, we entrust the schools that they're going to take care of our kids when we drop them off every morning, and it's a huge weight. Another concern is, and it's going to affect law enforcement, affects everyone, is the economics. Tax dollars, the revenue, it's down. You're going to have to do more with less.
Okay, thank you for that answer. I'll pose question number 3 to you, Mr. Ervin, and I'll repeat it again. As candidate for the top law enforcement officer of Coles County, cite at least 3 significant law enforcement issues facing Coles County over the next term, and what would you do to meet the challenge?
Sure, I think there are probably a number, but there are 3 really that come to mind very heavily. I think number 1 is rural patrol. Coles County geographically is a very large county. It's over 500 square miles. It's not uncommon to have 2 road deputies on at a time, one on the east side of the county, one on the west. So obviously that means increased response times and things like that. I was hired at the Sheriff's Department in 1986, about a month before an election, a contested election. They were talking about rural patrol then. They're still talking about it now. The reality is that you're not going to be able to do anything about that as far as increasing the number of bodies. I think any candidate that would say, well, I'm going to get in there and hire a half a dozen guys and get more rural patrol with the economy and such the way it is, that's not going to happen. But you can be more efficient with the personnel that you have with things like targeted patrol. If you have complaints about speeding, for example, in a particular small community, you can address those needs. Another one I think that John mentioned that also would be on my list is just the increasing youth violence, school safety. We have a number of schools and small communities throughout the county, Oakland, Lerna, Humboldt, and reaching out to those educational leaders in the schools, talking to them about their concerns, what their needs are, and how we can partner with them. And I think my background with emergency preparedness at the college, I would be well suited to help entities like that take a look at things like emergency preparedness plans and things like that. But certainly those are some of the top issues that I think are facing communities all across the state and across the nation.
We will proceed now with question number 4, and Mr. Ervin, we will stay with you for the first response. Some area jails are facing overcrowding, and while Coles County recently expanded their jail and does not face this issue, how would you handle it in the future if overcrowding does become a problem?
Well, I think you have a number of options, and you're right, that is a very real problem that county jails across the state are facing. Can you expand the jail again? I don't know that that's really the route I would want to go down. If for no other reason, again, getting back to the budget, how are you going to pay for that? Are you going to saddle the taxpayers with even higher taxes? I don't think that's the answer. I think that there are a couple things that you can do. One is you can look at whether there are other facilities in the area that you can enter into contracts with to send inmates out. There are counties where you can actually pay them to house inmates at a lower cost per day than it would cost you to actually house them yourself. But I think another thing that you can do is you can talk to legislators, you can talk to judges and the local state's attorney, and really take a hard look at your overall jail population. What are these people in there for? And if you have people that are in there for traffic offenses or other minor nonviolent offenses, maybe you free up jail space and you can save some taxpayer burden as well by not housing that person that's in there for a suspended license or writing bad checks or something like that does not pose a danger to the community.
All right, thank you for that response. And I'll repeat the question again, Mr. Clough. The question is, some area jails are facing overcrowding. Now, while Coles County is not facing overcrowding at this time, they recently expanded their jail. How would you handle it in the future if that did become a problem?
You know, just a few years ago, we were pretty much at maximum capacity. We were housing 160 plus inmates a day. You know, and the courts and the judges and the sheriff, they got together. There's several things that have been done. You know, there's the drug court. The state's attorney's office is doing a much better job at prosecuting cases and getting cases moved through quicker. You know, when you look at traffic offenses, I mean, like Randy said, they're a less serious offense. If you're driving with a license suspended, I mean, you're obviously, you know, you're not really a harm to society like someone, say, for an aggravated battery. There are different avenues, and Randy mentioned that, you know, you can farm out to other counties. I know there's counties south and north of here that are smaller and then have less of a jail population, and I'm sure they will be willing to rent bed space. But to my knowledge, that Coles County's never rented bed space. We've never farmed out anybody. When I first started the sheriff's office, we used to hold anywhere from 60 to 80 Champaign County inmates a day. I mean, they were paying us $35 a day per person to hold their inmates, and that's how we paid for that addition on the side of that jail. And so, I mean, our leaders have always been real responsible and real. Right now, our average daily population, it's doing really well, and they maintain it and they keep a good close eye on it. The sheriff, you try to watch it. You watch your county's jail population reports. You see where your trends are going. If you have an influx of something or another, you know, you make the changes and you adjust accordingly.
All right. Well, question number 5, we stay with you, Mr. Clough. And the question is, please explain how your department will most efficiently interface with local police. How effective are current relationships with police departments?
I think our relationship with all the police departments are very good. I work in investigations, so I'm constantly communicating with the Charleston Police Department, the Mattoon Police Department, the Lakeland College Police Department, EIU Police Department. It's a constant. We all share computer software now, records management systems, so we all have access to the same information. In the past, where if EIU had arrested someone, you know, the sheriff's office would have to go to actually EIU PD to get the information, whereas now it's all centralized. It's all a database. You know, we can draw from that, and we've all been utilizing that. I don't see the sheriff's office relationship changing. I see it getting better. I think we have a tremendous relationship with all the other agencies, and it's been getting better in the entire years, the 20 years that I've been there. I mean, it's just a cohesiveness that we all work very well together, even with the state police. You know, I mean, it's just, I mean, there's a lot of, everybody understands we're all on the same team here. We got the same job to do, and we know how to get it done.
And the same question to you, Mr. Ervin. Explain how your department will most efficiently interface with local police if elected sheriff. How would you utilize that, and how effective are current relationships with the local departments in the county?
Well, I would agree with John. I think the relationships among area law enforcement in this county are better than they have ever been. And I can remember a time when that was not always the case, when you had rivalries. You had investigators from one department that wouldn't speak to investigators at another department, and that's no good for anyone. Thank goodness that that has changed over the years. I'm very proud of the fact that my department at Lakeland College works very close and very effectively, I think, with all of the area police departments. We have an outstanding relationship with the Mattoon Police Department, with the Sheriff's Department, and we have routinely left campus to assist them, and there have been a number of occasions when they have been willing to come onto campus and assist us. But I think that the key to that is the leadership at the top. When I look at the current sheriff, when I look at the current police chiefs across the board at various agencies in the county, they're all professionals, and they all understand that mindset. You know, it's kind of the old saying about synergy, how you can do so much more working together than you can alone. I think there's an outstanding rapport now, and certainly under my administration, the Sheriff's Department would lead the way as far as cooperation and assistance with other departments. But that if you don't have that commitment and that leadership at the top, it's going to be hard to do.
All right, thank you both for that response. We move now to question number 6 in tonight's forum. And we begin with Mr. Ervin. We will stay with you for the first response. What is your view of the current department as far as personnel are concerned? Do you think there are adequate amounts of deputies on patrol? And if elected, what, if anything, would you change in that regard?
Well, the first part of that question, do I think that there are an adequate number of deputies in the Sheriff's Department? Absolutely not. I think, like a lot of law enforcement agencies across the state, funding has been cut, positions have been eliminated, people leave and they don't get replaced, and that kind of happens slowly over time. But do I think that there are enough patrol deputies out on the road at the Sheriff's Department? Absolutely not. Do I think that there are enough investigators? Absolutely not. I finished my career at the Sheriff's Department in investigations, and we had the same number of detectives then. I left in 1997, 16 years ago, as the same number of detectives that they have today. You can't tell me that crime hasn't gone up or that John isn't working more cases today than I was working in 1997, because they have. Again, the big question is, well, if you get elected, are you going to add to that? Realistically, probably not. Everybody's being asked to do more with less, which is a sad reality. In a perfect world, if I had my way and it wouldn't be breaking the backs of the taxpayers, would we add more detectives? Would we add more patrol deputies so they could get out more in those rural areas and serve the population better? Absolutely. The reality is that you're probably going to have to work, live within your means, and work with the staffing and personnel that you have.
All right. Mr. Clough, I will pose the question to you again. What is your view of the current department as far as personnel is concerned? It's a two-part question. And do you think there are adequate amounts of deputies on patrol? And if elected, what, if anything, would you do to change that regard, change in that regard?
My opinion with the staff of the Sheriff's Office, we have got a lot of classy people, sharp, smart, intelligent people, a lot of good leaders coming up. You know, it's a really young department. There's a lot of good talent there. As far as numbers, no, everybody'd always like to have more. You know, as Randy said, you know, there's when he left, there are the same number of investigators at the sheriff's office that there were 16 years ago, because I was there. There's only a handful of us. You know, sometimes there's only 2 deputies on the street at night. You know, and I will, you know, be the first to admit that, you know, when you're working midnight shift and you're on the southwest corner of the county and your backup's coming from the northeast corner of the county, it's a long wait. But as like he said, with the financial times being what they are and economics, relatively, what can you do to, you're not going to add more people. I mean, you just can't break the backs of the taxpayers when the economics are just the way it is already. You know, there's some things that you can do to try to alleviate things. I know communications, computer software, a lot of these interagency agreements, the Matthew Police Department, the Lakeland Police Department, I mean, they are a huge backup for us on the west side of the county. The Charleston Police Department on the east side of the county, the Oakland Police Department. It's having these multi-agency agreements that saying, hey, you know, we'll help you, you help us. I think that those help, but relatively speaking, I don't see you adding more. The jail is the only place where you're required to have a certain number of staff by state law mandated to watch the corrections for the inmates. Other than that, you know, I mean, you just have to do what you can.
All right, thank you. It's time now for question number 7, and we'll stay with you, Mr. Clough, for that. Current Illinois lawmakers are considering amending the state's new concealed carry legislation. Now, some of the proposals would make it easier to get a permit, while others would expand the list of locations where people would be allowed to carry weapons. Do you support the legislation as is, or do you believe some changes need to be made?
I think it is, myself, I think it's rather restrictive. I think there's nothing wrong with law-abiding citizens having the right to conceal carry. And Randy may disagree, but as far as I'm concerned as a police officer, we're not worried about the law-abiding citizens. The bad guys already have the guns. They're going to get the guns whether they have gun cards or FOID cards or whether they have a permit or not. Those people aren't the problem. I think that, you know, easing the restrictions a little bit. Obviously, you have to do background checks and make sure people are good, solid, and the training, you know, have good training on it. But I support the fact that I think it should be easier.
All right, thank you for that response. Mr. Ervin, I'll pose the question to you. It's regarding the new concealed carry legislation. Some lawmakers are considering amending parts of that legislation, and some of the proposals would make it easier to get a permit, while others would expand the locations where people would be allowed to carry those weapons. Do you support the legislation as is, or do you think that there are further changes that need to be made?
Well, first off, I'll say that generally I agree with John. I think I'm a supporter of concealed carry. I've been in law enforcement for 30 years, and the idea, as John said, as a law-abiding citizen, carrying a firearm has never caused me to lose a minute's sleep. The people that do cause me to lose sleep are the gang members and the drug dealers and people like that who are carrying them anyway. So I'm a supporter of concealed carry. There is one element of it, though, that does bother me, and that's the cost involved with getting a permit. When you think about the concept of concealed carry, it is to give an honest, law-abiding citizen the opportunity to defend themselves. Now, if you think about the fact that you hear these stories that people are saying it's costing $400 to $500 to be able to get a permit by the time they apply and they go through a class and so on. So to me, the people that you really are hurting the most are probably minorities, the elderly, people like that. Imagine for example, being an elderly citizen who might live in a rough part of a community, and you want a gun for protection, but you don't have the $500 to go through the paces and get a permit. So are we kind of saying as a state that, well, if you have means and you have the ability to pony up that kind of money, well then you're going to be able to defend yourself. But if you're poor, if you're elderly on a fixed income, you can't. That's the part of it that I do not think is fair.
We move now to question number 8, and Mr. Ervin, we will start with you, and both of you have actually, in some of your answers, have touched on this, but now you're given a little bit more time to elaborate. The question is, with all the government and county entities facing budget constraints, as sheriff of Coles County, how would you stretch the taxpayer dollars and still deter crime without sacrificing personnel in unincorporated areas? Mr. Ervin?
I'm trying to think back to what I said earlier so I don't give a different answer and people think that I'm making it up as I go. No, I think the budget concerns are going to be an ongoing issue. Whoever gets elected, they're going to be facing that day one, and whether they serve one term or whether they serve 5 terms, the day they go out the door, they're still going to be facing it. Again, I think it comes down to some things like what opportunities are out there, like grants and other things that you can pursue. But I think that it's really taking a hard look at that budget. How are your current line items currently funded, and is that the most efficient way to operate the department and meet the needs? For example, maybe training is an issue, and John mentioned that earlier, and I agree wholeheartedly. Training is very important. Maybe it gets to a point where you take a look at things like, I might take some money out of my equipment line item and move it into training or whatever. But I think you evaluate the budget as a whole. You look at the line items and you make policy decisions based on the needs of the department and the needs and the ability to serve the community, and make sure that those are aligned. Because I can guarantee you that the state is not going to call the next sheriff and say, hey, we found some money, we want to send it your way. So you have to do more with less. You have to be efficient with what you have.
Mr. Clough, it's your turn to answer question number 8, and that is, with all the government and county entities facing budget constraints, as sheriff of Coles County, how would you stretch the taxpayer dollars and still deter crime without, sacrificing personnel in unincorporated areas?
Well, I think the key to it is one, you immediately start looking at the budget, and it's a continuous process. I don't think it's just, every now and then you look at it. You continuously look at where can we save, how can we be more efficient. For instance, I like to go to the training issue. Is one of the things that you can do, and we've started in the last few years, is you start certifying in-house certain officers, supervisors who are certified to train in certain areas, baton training, taser training, capstan training, so that you don't have to pay that extra money to farm it out and send your officers to somewhere else to be trained and spend $300 or $400 when you have someone in-house who can do it right there in the department. It's still costing you salary money, but you're going to be paying that guy anyway. Things like that. Things like adjusting, I know just this year I just talked to our cook not too long ago, making adjustments, like instead of serving the hot and ready meals that you just throw in the oven and cook them for the inmates, she's actually preparing meals more, and she's reduced our cost by like $20,000 or $30,000 a year. I mean, just little things like that, because a meal, you're heating and eat a meal is like $4 a piece, whereas you fix it, you might get $1 a portion. You constantly do evaluation process, look at your budget, see where you're spending, try to fix things, try to put things where they should be and do the right things, and be conscious of what you're doing with the taxpayer dollars, because you're responsible to the citizens for it.
That's right. Well, as we get closer to the end of this forum, it is time now for what we would call the lightning round of quick questions and answers. And I will ask the question, and I would only ask that you please limit your answers to 1 minute each. We will alternate the order of answering each question, and we will start with Mr. Clough. The first question is, how are you, or what makes you different from the other candidates in this race? What makes you different from the other candidates in this race?
What makes me different is my time at the sheriff's office, the time that I've spent in each section of the sheriff's office, and corrections. I've excelled at majority of the things that I've done. I was awarded the Illinois Outstanding Correctional Officer Award from the Illinois Sheriff's Association. I graduated top of my class at the University of Illinois Police Training Institute. On patrol, I excelled at. I've been awarded the MAD Award from Coles County Mothers Against Drunk Drivers. I've received the American Alliance Against Intoxicated Motorists Award 3 times, an award from the Department of Transportation for that. The fact that I know the department, I'm there, I know how the machine runs, I know sometimes little tweaks need here and there, and instead of coming in and trying to figure out what's going on before I make decisions and know how to move people, I'm already there and I know.
Mr. Ervin, what makes you different from the other candidates in this race?
My resume. If you look at the job, the sheriff is an administrator who oversees a multi-million-dollar budget. He supervises literally dozens of employees, everything from corrections officers, patrolmen, detectives, court security. It's like being the CEO of a small company. I've been a department head for 16 years. I was on the Mattoon City Council for 8 years. During that time, I was responsible for things as an elected official, like policy decisions, like administering a budget, like supervising large numbers of employees. So I believe when you look at what the sheriff does and what the qualifications are, short answer, I would say my resume.
Mr. Ervin, what's your policy on taking in inmates from other counties' overcrowded jails?
Well, I think that there are a couple things that you look at. We talked earlier about finances and we talked about jail overcrowding and so on. If you have bed space and you can bring inmates in from other counties and make money that you can use to provide training and do other things, I think it's a positive and you should. But you need to look at the number of inmates compared to the number of officers and make sure that you're not putting such a burden on the correctional staff that you create an unsafe environment, because absolutely I would never do anything that would jeopardize officer safety.
What is your policy on taking in inmates from other counties' overcrowded jails, Mr. Clough?
I think it would be a good business sense as long as you take into consideration, again, we're mandated by county jail standards to have so many officers per so many inmates in the jail. On each level of the jail, our jail is a multi-level. It has 2 levels. So you have to consider everything. You have to consider meals, you have to consider, the benefit time. I mean, you have to take into consideration if you can take in and make money, as we did back in the early mid-90s when we held Champaign County inmates and we were able to pay for an extension onto our jail. I think it's good business sense because it makes the county money and it helps relieve the burden on the taxpayers. But again, officer safety is a must, and you take care of the people that work for you because they are the backbone.
All right. If elected, Mr. Clough, we will stay with you. This job deals with administrative duties and budgets on a regular basis. What experience do you have to support that duty as sheriff?
As far as administrative duties, records keeping, investigation, I believe helps you tremendously with that. When I was a sergeant in the jail, I was also, in charge of doing scheduling, assisted with payroll many times. Command staff will help with the administrators. As of currently, it's all been handed down to lieutenants and below. They're doing scheduling, they're doing budget line items for certain areas. If, like in investigations, we help adjust the investigations budget line items because that's what we do. I mean, it's our ideas. I think that I've also served on some committees on some larger agencies that are national, that the Pope and Young Club, we were in charge of spending all the money for broadcasting, like on the Outdoor Channel and things like that. So I have that knowledge and awareness, and I'm also aware of our county budget.
All right, Mr. Ervin, again, if this job deals with administrative duties and budgets on a regular basis, what experience do you have to support that duty?
Well, again, that's what I do. That's what I've done for the last 16 years as a department head at the college. I've been responsible for hiring personnel, for administering the budget, and doing all of those things that you're talking about. In addition to that, my time on the City Council, I think, is a very important part of the background. In Mattoon, you actually are elected as a commissioner and have administrative responsibility over a department that you're assigned. During my time on the City Council, I was over the fire department and public works, and during my my second term on the City Council, I was the Finance Commissioner, responsible for working with the Finance Director and the City Administrator to implement and administer the city's budget, which at the time was about a $16 million budget, more than 5 times the budget of the Sheriff's Department.
Well, I am the news director here at WEIU, so I'm very interested to see how you both will answer this next question.
I love the media.
Well, we'll stay with you, and we will start with you first. We'll say a big crime happens in Coles County. How do you handle media access to that crime?
Well, first off, I think that the media access is so important, and I think sometimes it can be maybe easy for some people to be leery of the media, or their enemy or whatever, and I don't think that at all. In fact, I think that it can be a very effective partnership. When you look at things like today, for an example, I was walking through campus, and on one of the TV monitors came across an Amber Alert about an abducted child. You can point to many, many examples of law enforcement and the media working together to help get out information, critical information that citizens need to keep themselves safe, information that might cause someone to call in with a tip if they have information about a crime, and so on. Obviously, you don't want to violate anyone's privacy rights. You don't want to be releasing the name of a juvenile victim of a crime or something like that. But certainly, I see the media as very much a partner with law enforcement to be able to accomplish a number of positive things for the community and for the citizens.
I will pose the same question to you. A big crime happens in Coles County. How are you dealing with the media in a situation like that?
I actually happen to deal with the media on a regular basis, investigations I typically do. You give them as much as you can. Because I mean it's people's right to know. We're in a public office. As long as you don't violate anyone's rights, privacy, don't impede an investigation. As long as it's not critical, you give them as much as you can. You cooperate with them fully. One of the things that I took a media relations class, and one of the instructors was a WGN news reporter, and he said, the quickest way to get a reporter on your back is to be evasive or not answer a question. If you give him what he wants, then he goes away. But again, as long as you keep a good relation with them, and give them as much as you can, and they can help us as well. Like he said, with tips, things of that nature.
All right. Well, I have another question for you. Speaking of communication, what will your communication style be like with the taxpayers if you are elected sheriff?
Oh, absolutely open. I'm a homegrown boy. I've grown up here my entire life. I mean, if you know me, you know that you can talk to me anytime. I have people walk up to me. I have people call me all the time. I laugh sometimes because I'll have people from local smaller villages or towns. They'll call me instead of calling the sheriff's office because they know me. I grew up here. They feel comfortable talking to me, and that makes me feel good. I mean, because I am an approachable individual, and there's nothing wrong with that. A lot of times I laugh because, did you call the office? No, they didn't call the office. And my phone will ring at the office all the time. Instead of my office phone, my cell phone will ring, and I'll get someone from, say, Lerna calling me and telling me this is going on 3rd and in Locust Street or something. So I think it'll be a pretty open relationship. People come in. I mean, that's what we're there for. We're funded by the taxpayers. We're public servants. So if you're the public, come in. Let's see what we can do for you.
Mr. Ervin, what would your communication style be with the taxpayers if elected?
Well, I couldn't agree more that open, honest communication is key. You can look at any relationship that goes sour, whether it's husband and wife, boss, employee, whatever. If communication is lacking, you've got problems. I think the sheriff does need to have an open door policy. He needs to be accessible to the public. In fact, if I'm elected, some of the things that I would do would be make a regular point to contact service clubs and other entities. Are you looking for a speaker, to get out there an opportunity to talk to the public, receive feedback? But I also would spend a lot of time getting out in the communities, meeting with education leaders, community leaders, sitting down at the coffee shop and talking to people. If those people know you they're going to feel comfortable picking up that phone, calling, saying, Randy, I've got an idea, I've got a concern, I've got a question. If they feel a barrier, they don't know you, you never come around, you're impersonal, you're not going to have that.
A big question for a short amount of time for an answer, but I'm going to ask it, and we'll start with Mr. Ervin. Specifically, how do you think the Sheriff's Department should operate?
Well, I think that there are a number of things that come to mind. It should be fiscally responsible. I think the sheriff has an obligation to make sure that money's well spent and is prioritized well. I think it should operate keeping things like officer safety first and foremost, making sure that you take care of those people that work for you. But to me, if I had to give you a one-word answer, it would be integrity. In this profession, if you don't have character, if you don't have integrity, you have nothing. I believe I have that, and I would demand that of anyone who works for me.
Mr. Clough, how do you think the Sheriff's Department should operate?
Yeah, I think that we, obviously we're public servants, or we work for the public. We serve and protect, with honesty and integrity, and of course being fiscally responsible with the taxpayers' dollars. But you have to keep in mind that when you're doing a lot of things, everything falls in the budgets. You have to keep in mind officer safety, your training. You want good professional people, because if you have good professional people, they're going to treat people as they should be treated. They're going to do their jobs exactly the way they should do their jobs, and you're going to have nothing but good feedback, because everything's going and running the right way. And obviously I will demand the best from my people. I don't expect any more of them than I would expect of myself. And I think I'm my own toughest critic sometimes, but you have to be there on top of the game and watch everything and make sure that everybody's doing what they're supposed to be doing.
All right, thank you both for that lightning round of questions. We do now move to the point in the forum. The candidates will each make a 3-minute closing statement, the order of which was determined by the drawing. And we start this evening with Mr. Ervin, who will make his closing statement. I will turn the floor over to you.
Well, first off, I'm glad that given today's weather that we're past the part of the forum where we're talking about lightning. Again, I thank you guys for hosting this event. I was speaking to a group a few weeks ago, and a gentleman asked me a question that I think is the $64 question in any race. He said, there are multiple candidates running. I'm going to pull a Republican ballot. Why should I vote for you? And I would allude back to some things that I said earlier. I think if you compare the resume, if you look at what the job entails, that I'm the best qualified candidate. I ask people to imagine, instead of this position being elected, imagine that it was a position that you hired for. And as voters, if you were a member of the hiring committee, and if John and I had turned in an application and you conducted an interview, which is kind of what we're doing tonight, and you did a background check and you compared references and you looked at qualifications, the things that you would look at, the bottom line would be, who do I feel is the best qualified candidate for the job? You had a very pertinent question a little bit ago about the administrative responsibilities, and that's what the sheriff is. The sheriff is an administrator who oversees roughly a $3 million budget, a very large staff of employees. For the past 16 years, I've been a police chief. I've had budgeting and supervision responsibilities. I talked a little bit earlier about my experiences with the Mattoon City Council. My second term on the City Council, as I said previously, I was the finance commissioner responsible for the implementation and administration of a $15 million budget. I think when you combine those experiences with the education, some of the formal police management training that I've had, such as what I experienced at the FBI Academy and some of those other training opportunities that I've had, I believe that if you were part of a hiring committee and you were looking at the two of us, with all due respect to John, I think you'd hire me. And it's for those same reasons that I think you should vote for me when you go into the ballot box. I do, again, in closing, appreciate your time. I appreciate the viewers tuning in tonight and taking an hour of your evening to get to know the candidates so you can make an informed decision, and I would ask for your vote on March 18th. Thank you.
Mr. Clough, it's time for you to address the voters for a closing 3-minute statement.
Okay. Obviously, I'd like to thank WEIU and the League of Women Voters for hosting this evening. I appreciate the time that the people out there have taken out of their evening to get to know my opponent and I would like to think that, you know, it'd give you an insight on who John Clough is and how John Clough will run the sheriff's office, elected sheriff, and the kind of good, sound leader that I am. And I would appreciate their vote on March 18th.
All right, thank you very much for that closing statement. Well, before we close tonight, there is a 4th candidate running for sheriff on the Democratic ticket, and we have allowed him a 3-minute statement to close out our forum this evening. Greg Voudrie pre-recorded the segment in the WEIU studios, and we will play it for you right now.
Good evening. My name is Greg Voudrie, and I'm the Democratic candidate for the office of Coles County Sheriff. I'm a graduate of both Mattoon High School and Eastern Illinois University. I'm married with 2 children. My wife Cindy is a retired middle school teacher and is currently working as an adjunct instructor at Eastern Illinois University. I have 2 sons, Russell and Lucas. Russell is 23 years old and is a CPA who is employed by Fleischman Hillard in St. Louis as a senior financial analyst. Lucas is 21 years old and is a senior here at Eastern Illinois University, and he anticipates graduating this May. As for my experience, I served 4 years in the United States Marine Corps as an intelligence specialist, obtaining the rank of sergeant before returning home to Coles County to begin a 25-year law enforcement career. I started this career with the Coles County Sheriff's Department as a deputy before being hired by the Mattoon Police Department. For my police academy training, I attended the Police Training Institute at the University of Illinois, where I received academic recognition for finishing in the top 10% of my class. With the Mattoon Police Department, I worked in patrol, and I also served as a narcotics investigator with the East Central Illinois Task Force. I started Mattoon PD's K-9 program with my partner Barron. For these efforts, I received Mattoon PD's Officer of the Year Award. Barron and I twice were recognized by the Illinois-Missouri region of the United States Police K-9 Association for patrol cases of the quarter. I organized efforts with other local K-9 teams to host the national field trials here in 1998. These trials drew 123 K-9 teams from across the United States, and a feature was done on the event by ABC's 2020 program. In addition to the competition that week, we hosted some of the top trainers in our field and offered some incredible training to the officers that were in attendance. For these efforts, as chairman of the National Field Trials, I was the recipient of the Mark Hirsch Award at their National Awards Banquet. After working in K-9, I taught the Dare and Great programs in the Mattoon schools until my promotion and return to patrol. This teaching experience was some of the most rewarding in my law enforcement career. On returning to patrol, I assumed patrol shift commander responsibilities in 2004 and served in that capacity until my retirement from the Mattoon Police Department this past June. Last year, I graduated from the FBI National Academy. This 10-week training in Quantico, Virginia was intense management-level training that is recognized by the University of Virginia as 17 hours of college credit at both the undergraduate and graduate level. My efforts at this training resulted in a 4.0 GPA, and in 2 of the 6 classes, I received an A+ status, which required carrying a grade level of 98 or higher to attain. In addition to the FBI Academy, I'm presently enrolled in Northwestern University's management level course, their School of Police Staff and Command. It is this level of training and professionalism that I hope to bring to the Coles County Sheriff's Department. In conclusion, I'd like to thank WEIU for the opportunity to be here at my alma mater and to introduce myself to you. I look forward to carrying these conversations on with the Republican nominee this fall. Thank you.
And again, we thank Greg Voudrie for that pre-recorded segment. And with that, we wrap up our Coles County Sheriff Candidate Forum. We would like to thank our candidates again, John Clough and Randy Ervin. Again, Jimmy Rankin was unable to attend tonight. We also want to thank the Coles County League of Women Voters and all of our journalism community partners that submitted questions tonight. For our viewers, this candidate forum will be available soon on our YouTube page at youtube.com/WEIU TV. Comments and questions about the candidate forum can be directed to our email at weiu@weiu.net. For WEIU, I'm Kelly Runyon. Thank you for watching and have a great night.